Nigeria's socioeconomic pressures driven by national volatility, stagflation, and national uncertainties require all hands to be on deck to address the most critical challenges that would enable the country exceed its own expectations. Fiscal and monetary authorities should lead that campaign. On the monetary side, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) is taking appropriate steps to make moderate and incremental progress in promoting value of the naira, deepening financial inclusion, and discouraging illegal hoarding of the naira by individuals. In the eyes of many, the central bank seems to have demonstrated enough professionalism in defending the naira and, by extension, salvaging the Nigerian economy, especially through its recent policy to redesign higher denominations of the naira, as a move that has been widely commended and criticized by both economic and financial experts. However, the implication of the decision has become a front burner in economic policy discourse in Nigeria. To give us more insight into this development as we evaluate the impact on the foreign exchange market amid unabated volatility is an investment research analyst at ARM Securities Limited, Oyinkansola Aregbesola. Thank you very much for joining us at this point.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, since the announcement of the Naira redesign by the Central Bank of Nigeria, there has been speculations about the impact of this move on the economy. But first, do you see this policy having any significant impact on the value of the Naira and persistent forex scarcity?
Okay, so from our first reportage on the action, we had established that those who have reasons to hold such significant amounts might have to just lump them into FX purchase. So hence, that's actually like one of the reasons for the recent drop in the value of Naira.
All right, so a look at the forex market now. There seems to be an unabated volatility at the parallel market due to the continuous surge in the demand for dollar. Do you see the Naira redesign as a smart move by the Apex Bank to mop up significant proportions of the Naira outside the banking vault, especially as currency in circulation continues to rise?
Okay, so the decision represents a long overdue action as the amount of Naira outside the banking system at the point of announcing the decision was unhealthy. So the policy to us represents a good move to mop liquidity that are outside the banking system. And it would also add an extra layer of effectiveness to monetary policy actions by the CBN. For instance, the cash reserve ratio at 32.5% will be more effective with mopping risk sector liquidity and the bit to rein on the demand side of the current Nigerian inflation dynamics.
Well, talking about effective management of the foreign exchange market, now there are calls for the CBN to reduce the gap between the fixed and parallel markets so as to encourage the critical foreign inflows as a significant liquidity sources to strengthen the Naira. Now, what is the position on this, and how best do you think the monetary authority can manage any foreign exchange market to avoid constant depreciation of the Naira?
Well, so limiting the duty of exchange rate stability to the actions of the CBN is one of the communication gap issues that has actually engulfed the public space like a wildfire. Seeing as what affects our FX position extend beyond monetary issues to other segments of the economy. If you take, for instance, our unfavorable balance of payment position is one of the many factors that has made for difficulty with maintaining a market-centric and stable Naira. And so thus it is safe to say we need to improve variables like productivity. We need to provide good infrastructure and also improve the ease of doing business in the country in order for us to have a shot at improving our balance of payment position. And of course, if our balance of payment position is improving, it will actually be like, it would be like a foreshadow to improved Naira health. And then whatever the effort of the CBN is on recent years are just short-term solutions, and it is unsustainable to FX concerns.
Okay, so let's talk about inflation, which is said to be the big monster causing severe headaches to all central bank governors across the globe. Do you foresee a new currency in circulation as the panacea to this malady, despite two consecutive interest rate hike with no decline in sight?
Of course, it would slow the pace of it will slow the pace of price rise, especially in the pre-election year that we are in. Nevertheless, the issue that we have cited earlier, which is the issue of productivity, improving business environment, and then closing the infrastructure gap, and those factors that are required so that we would have an improved avenue to curb the supply side triggers that has remained a long-term concern. And the most recent flooding across the nation has also not helped, given the fact that, it has actually seemed to have wiped out farms across the nation. And bearing in mind, the likelihood of food shortage, which is still a very huge part of Nigeria's prices index, it's still about, the food basket, still account for like 51% of the price index.
All right, so as we get into 2023, what are your projections for the Nigerian economy in the new year in the face of unabated macroeconomic challenges as we enter into electionary period?
All right, thank you. So for as long as we have macroeconomic uncertainties across the globe, as well as the lingering Russian-Ukraine conflict and the internal structural issues that we have within the country, we're not entirely optimistic about the prospect of both the global and domestic growth in 2023. Nevertheless, our assessment of the expected trend is actually still in progress.
Okay, so let's assess the operating environment right now and see what the forex scarcity has its impact on the economy so far, especially in this year in 2022.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I would like you to access the impact of the scarcity of forex, especially as it has happened several times. We've had this kind of incidents in the year 2022, and businesses have had to suffer the scarcity, the impact of the scarcity on the scarcity of the forex on their craft. So tell us about its impact so far, and how do we get out of this?
Okay, so the FX illiquidity, it actually has been, like a very it has actually caused negative impacts, on businesses in general, and especially those that are very much involved in importing, and that has we actually saw, the impact on, their financial statements. If you look at, the operating expenses of several businesses, I know has actually gone up, due to the issues of FX illiquidity. And if it is not, dealt with on time, it would continue to affect, performance of business and productivity as a whole. And then we've already seen like a slowdown in the Q3 Q3 2022 GDP report, and showing you the effect of the structural issues like FX liquidity and and so on.
So with the scarcity of the dollar, how do you think the manufacturing sector had performed in the year?
Okay, so given the fact that most of the businesses in the sector are actually dependent on importing materials to produce their goods, it has actually affected them, in production wise, and we also saw that in the GDP numbers, and we expect we feel like this is actually something that like I said earlier, that needs to be dealt with on time, in order to ensure that the manufacturing sector still leaves the stay afloat or stay in the positive.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us, of course, for having given us insights into the volatility of the Naira, and of course, giving us your expert opinion on the change in the higher currencies in Nigeria. Foreign exchange expert, investment research analyst at ARM Securities, Oyinkansola Aregbesola. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.